This is Dyslexic Design Thinking. For the past 25 years, Gil Gershoni has been the head of his own branding agency, Gershoni Creative. And one of the things he's passionate about rebranding is his dyslexia. In this series, Gil sits down with members of the dyslexic community for eye-opening conversations about the intersection of dyslexia and creativity, and what dyslexia can teach us about ourselves and the world around us. Today, Gil talks to Alex Hackel, an X-Games skier, filmmaker, and entrepreneur. Alex won silver and bronze medals at the World of X Real Ski, an event which features the world's top film skiers. He has produced and appeared in numerous ski films for the Stockholm-based production company The Bunch. He also co-founded 1000 Skis, which manufactures playful, sustainable, and high-quality skis for a variety of terrains. Enjoy!
Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Dyslexic Design Thinking. I'm Gil Gershoni, and I'm here with Alex Hackel. I met Alex through a good friend, Jeffrey Conger, at the Dyslexia and Innovation Symposium at the Montana State University. I'm so excited to have a conversation with Alex today. Welcome, Alex. Great to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jill. Looking forward to the conversation.
Likewise, man. I wanted to start with you growing up in New England. I'm assuming the winters are fairly cold, to say the least. What's your sort of earliest memories of being in snow?
My earliest memories are in Maine. I grew up skiing at Sunday River, Maine, and my parents, they both didn't really grow up skiing, but they met on a ski trip, and they somehow decided that our family activity was skiing. So like I couldn't do hockey because that was during ski season. I couldn't play basketball because that was during ski season. And they bought a condo like on the mountain, ski in and ski out at Sunday River, Maine. So my earliest memories with snow and skiing were just walking out of the condo, putting on the skis, going onto the mountain. I had an older brother who skied. I had older cousins who would ski. So it was just pretty much trying to keep up with the family and get down the mountain.
How old are you? What's the earliest memory? Do you remember how old were you?
I don't really have. I guess I have like a small memory because I have like a picture that my mom has. I have more a memory of like my ski outfit. Like I had this like super green, like neon green onesie, and like me and my brother had the same onesie. And I also remember, like I would have a handle attached to me, so it was like a harness with a handle on the back because I was so small and the chairlifts were so high. So my parents would have to like pick me up. So I remember that. And then honestly, like one of the biggest memories I had was I was so small and I would like almost fall off chairlifts all the time because they would come really quickly. And so I just have some memories. They're not really that like terrifying, but just of like almost falling off the chairlifts when I was a kid because like my uncle wasn't able to get me on in time. And then, looking at his face and he's terrified and I'm terrified, but, I'm probably like 2 feet off the ground, but those are kind of the first memories.
That sounds like it's in your blood. Do you remember the first time you were super comfortable on the slopes? Is there a moment just like, wow, man, this is really kind of my sweet spot?
I don't necessarily know if there's like one direct moment because I feel like it's like a skill that just builds and builds. But I would say like by the time, I don't know, I was like 7 or 8 or something, like I knew that I was a good skier because like you would go skiing the mountain and it's called like if you ski under the chairlift, it's kind of called like Hollywooding because people are on the chairlift going up, and there's this run at Sunday River, Maine called Agony, and it's like famous for just having tons of like bumps, just huge moguls, and it's an expert trail, double black diamond for Sunday River standards, one of the hardest trails, and it's right under the main chairlift. And I remember like I would just go skiing down that run and I would look so small. I was like a really small kid and I was like 8, and I was having no problem skiing super fast and people would just be like cheering from the chairlift. because they were like so surprised. So I kind of feel like right around then was when I knew that, like, I was like, okay, like, I'm a talented skier, and like I
Mhm.
knew that I was a talented skier, but not like at that moment I didn't think I was going to be a professional skier. I just knew that, like, for my age I was really good, and that especially with how small I looked, that I was exceeding expectations.
Mm. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I was also a skinny kid, always looked 3 years younger than I always really were. So in some sense, I was like kind of under, but then depends on what I was doing. I had some, talented skills in my dyslexia, which I kind of embraced, but I didn't know it was the dyslexia, but like me being in the arts and me being interested in stories and conversations as a very early age, I remember sort of showing up. People like, who is this little kid? Like, what is he doing here? So I can definitely relate to your story. When did you went to the Wendell's Academy in Oregon?
So I went to Wendell's Academy in Oregon when I was 15. So my sophomore year of high school was the first year that I went to Wendell's Academy. I wanted to go to a ski school because I skied on the weekends, and I had dyslexia, like, while we're all here. And one of the things was, like, school was not necessarily, didn't come so easy to me. So when I
Mhm.
skiing, and it was kind of like, I don't want to say I was a natural, but compared to other things, it came really easy, and it became kind of my outlet because school was frustrating. I had to go to basically some special ed classes, get double English classes, get help on my tests, get good support. And I think that one of the things I maybe didn't realize at the time was that the support I was receiving was support, but in the
Mhm.
moment as a kid, you're like, you just want to be like every other kid. So you're just like, why do I have these extra classes? What's going on here? So skiing was kind of like my outlet, and I knew that that was kind of like what I wanted to pursue, and I
Mhm.
was putting my time and energy into it. But my dad was like pretty adamant. My dad has dyslexia, and he's something, he struggled with it way more than I did, because back in his time there was no such thing as dyslexia. So he basically was like, you have to like read at grade level, but if you're gonna go to a ski academy. And I ended up going to a school for all dyslexic kids called the Landmark. It's in
Mhm.
Beverly, Massachusetts. And so I
Oh,
ended up
interesting.
going there for 2 years. And then when I got my reading level up to grade level and sort of like established it, then I ended up going to Wendell's Academy. It was like a give and take of, I went along with my parents' plan, and then
Mhm.
I finally was persistent enough that we could do my plan.
And you were at the school. You graduated from there when you are a senior. So you was there for 3 years.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, for those out there who don't know, it's an amazing school focusing on action sports. What was encouraging for you to take sort of the skiing more seriously at the school? Was there was a moment? Was there a teacher? Was it just being with other students like yourself that just had sort of tremendous amount of passion for it? What was the driver that fueled you even further when you went to the academy?
I honestly think like the drive, I I always had very supportive people along the way once I was at the academy, but
Mhm.
I mean the whole drive was just like, um I don't know, I just had a lot of energy as a kid, and I had a lot of frustration as a kid, and I just wanted to do it, and I just wanted to show people that I could do it, and I just wanted to fit in, and I just wanted to have something to excel at. And I was like a really depressed kid. Like, my mom tells
Oh,
me this
really?
all the time. But yeah, from my ages like 10 to like 13, I was miserable. I don't know why. I was, one of those people that was thinking about big life questions when I was super young, and I was really disenfranchised. At the time, I didn't have many like friends in public school, and I
Mm.
found school to be very difficult, and uh, you know, felt kind of like an outsider. So when I just found skiing, I was just like, this is my thing. This is the only thing that gets me up out of bed. This is the only thing that gives me joy. So it was really like, it sounds so weird, but the passion for skiing was really came from almost like
Mm.
uh I don't know, like an escapism of like,
Mm.
this is awesome. This is like something I can connect with, and I can't find that many things I can connect with. So if I can find this one thing, then let's go all in on it. And then I don't even think it wasn't even like, I didn't even dare to think I could be a professional at it at the beginning. I was just like, this is just what I want to do. And if I go to a ski academy, I get to do it more. So that's awesome. That's what I want to do. And then when I got to the ski academy, and I could just see, sort of, I had a lot of good work ethic, and I had a lot of passion. And if I could continue that, then I could have a professional career. And then probably once I got to the ski academy and got the infrastructure around me to, good coaches and other kids my age who were, some of the best skiers in the world. Like my two roommates shared the podium in Pyeongchang,
Wow.
the South Korea Olympics. So one got silver and one got bronze, same podium. So
Amazing.
I was around like such good skiers. And when I was around that group of skiers and that talent, and then I could see that I could kind of hang and hold my own, then sort of that's when the idea came in, like, okay, like you can not only is this the thing you love most in life, but you can do this professionally.
Mm-hmm. What's your relationship between, I mean, you said 10 to 13, you had some hard times at school, and then you found, your passion for skiing. I mean, what was going on for you at those early ages? Was it hard to read and write? Was it challenging in school environment? Was it just not interesting? I mean, was there anything in particular that jumps at you?
Yeah, I mean, definitely challenging reading and writing, having dyslexia. And then also I had something called idiopathic short stature as well. So idiopathic short stature is like when you naturally have like a lack of human growth hormone in your body. So
Okay.
I'm like 5'9" today, but if I would have gone like untreated, I probably would have been around 5 foot max height. So I ended up having to take human growth hormone. Like everyone thinks about human growth hormone as like athletes, performance enhancing drugs. But human growth hormone exists for this reason of people who have idiopathic short stature and don't naturally produce the amount of growth hormone. So I had those like two things happening at the same time.
Same
So
time.
I wasn't feeling very gratified in the school, in the classroom. And also, I had a lot of bad, no, I wouldn't say bad teachers, but I had a lot of clashes with the teachers. I remember like 6th grade, like the teacher just, well, he just had a teaching style and it wasn't very flexible. And I was trying so hard, and I wasn't. I think all dyslexics can relate to this feeling. Like you're trying as hard as anybody else in the room, but you're basically getting condescended, talked down upon. They interpret the lack of results as being like a you problem and not necessarily seeing what's potentially in the gap, or they'd see it as an effort and engagement problem and maybe not a learning disability problem. So it's just all these things at once. Like I was just having a hard time in school in the classroom, and then also I had idiopathic short stature, so I was the tiniest kid in my class by far, and social interactions, not I had like friends and whatnot. I mean, it wasn't like terrible, but it's just one of those things where I was young, a lot of things were going on, and I didn't I wasn't having a good time, you could say, in school.
Yeah. I think a lot of our audience can relate to it. I know I can relate to it. It's one thing to go through teenager and the hormones and the changing and all the things that's going on already for you with uniquenesses, right? We all they're individuals in our own different ways, and then on top of it, there's the learning and there's the growing and there's the socializing, and those early years were very, very difficult. I was doing it in another country, and then I moved at that same age to the US, so I had to kind of start all over again at 14. So not fun at all. Although I wonder if you have the same experiences by overcoming that phase and finding what really made me whole, what I love to do, and then having the opportunity and support of my parents and some different teacher inside to be able to feed that part of me and that dyslexia of me was definitely I think a gift in the long view, but the short view was very, very challenging. Going through those early years, I definitely learned what it is to try super hard, and I remember I was like, it was probably around 13, 14. I was like, I just wanted to be average. That was my thing. If I can just be average, that would be like awesome, because I've worked so hard doing school and after school and doing holidays and just trying to catch up. But I learned what it is to work hard, and I know you worked massively hard, and maybe that came back from those years.
No, definitely. Well, before I answer that, quick curiosity, where did you grow up before you moved to the US?
I was born in Israel, and I spent my early years in Israel, and then my parents are American Argentinian, so we moved back to the US, and I went to school in Connecticut, and then did university in New York. Yeah.
So you're also a New Englander,
Oh yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
partial New Englander.
yeah. Spend
Um,
yeah.
and out of curiosity, so does that mean you speak Spanish, English, and Hebrew?
I speak Hebrew and English. I understand a little bit of other languages, but languages are quite difficult for me. I know you just learned, well, in the last couple of years, you pick it up a whole new language, which I want to get to in a minute, which I'm still blown away how you did that. But, some people like my brothers are really, really good languages. They just like within 6 months, they have the language. And I have a couple of friends like that. I have a good friend from Turkey that speaks 8 languages. I just never figured out how did they do that? For me, it's like languages are this sort of creative, negotiable constructs that I just like, my mind just goes around in different ways about it. But some people have a lot of strength with it, but yeah, two languages. And then, that was a pretty heavy lift for me there, but I'm glad I did that.
Definitely. But to get back to your initial like question, I definitely like credit my dyslexia with so much of like building my work ethic. And the way that I look at it is like we're building our own buildings in life, right? And if you have a really strong foundation, you can build a really big building. And I think like when we're all sitting there in school, elementary school, middle school, high school, and we're just looking at everyone else's buildings, and they're already building on the third or fourth floor, and we're over here still working on our base. But I think that base and how much time you put into that and what you have in it. And I also like another analogy that I love to talk about is like the iceberg. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're all icebergs too. Like you only see that 10%, out of the water, and then there's the 90% underneath. And like we have dyslexia there, and I feel like it's one of those things where I think it doesn't necessarily compute to early results, but I think it computes to results in the long run. And I think that from my experience, like when you have dyslexia, like you're saying, like how hard do you work just to be average? And when you find something where it's like you put that work in, and then the return on value is at like a more exponential rate. So let's just say dyslexic trying, you know, English class, let's just say, maybe, you're putting in 100% effort and you're getting 5% back on your returns. As soon as you find something where you put 100% effort and you get 50% or even 20% back on returns, you're like, whoa, like this is awesome. So I think it's one of those things where it's like the adversity that I experienced then set the whole foundation for everything. And
Mm-hmm.
it gave me an attitude and a perspective on life that I don't think many other people had. And it definitely gave me an appreciation for certain things, and also it gave me a work ethic and a drive, and just I don't even know, I feel like those like the things that I experienced because of my dyslexia just set me up for so much success in later in life. And I have a dad who's dyslexic, I have a grandfather who's dyslexic, grandmother is dyslexic, and I always felt like the best thing that they did was like they were very like accepting of obviously they know about it themselves, but they also were successful in their own rights and heroes of mine. So I always had this perspective on my dyslexia of like it was difficult, but it was never going to be the deciding factor. Like they always
Right.
made it very clear that I'm the deciding factor, and they were always very supportive. And so that's one of my biggest things I think about if there's like dyslexic people here is like there's so many amazing dyslexics in this world, and
Right.
it's absolutely insane. And that more or less like dyslexia is a great teacher. It's I don't know, just a great thing to experience, makes you think different, makes you go through hardships, makes you persevere, gives you great work ethic, gives you great perspective on life. And, at the end of the day, it will never define you. You're still the author of
Mm.
defining yourself.
That was beautiful said. I love so many things you said there, starting with the fact that 10% is the learning disability, right? And we all have differences, so we all have different ways we do better than others, but 90% is really the strength, right? It's a strength-based model. I mean, I do everything dyslexic. My brain is a dyslexic brain. I process everything around me through my nonlinear, my neurodiverse, my individual brain. So everything I do is dyslexic. It's only when you're trying to make me be linear and trying to look at language and try to suspend the fact that my mind can negotiate these symbols that I have a harder time. because it put the same strength-based model on anything else. That's called innovation. That's called drive. That's called the ability to see the world around us as like, well, why can't I do it? Let me show you that I can do it. And, I found, to your point, and when I got to high school and then college, I was in many ways, the hardship paid in spades, because I just already knew what it is to work hard. And where other students had it maybe easier and they were more traditional learners and they didn't have to struggle so hard, when they went to university, they were doing the best they can, but they didn't know what it is to climb that freaking mountain of challenge as a little kid and making it to the summit, and knowing that you can do that at such an early age gives you like this, this tremendous amount of hyper ability that then you can apply to things that just gives you joy, makes you happy. You know what it is to work so hard, but now you work on something hard by choice that you love to do. And that is a tremendous gift. I mean, I wanted to go back to you making the U.S. Free ski team as a teenager. How old were you when that happened?
I was 17.
Okay, so you were just about to finish high school?
Yes, I think it was my last year in high school. So I was like a senior in high school when I got named to the U.S. ski team.
So tell me, how did that come about? And for folks out there that don't know much about it, would you give us a little background?
Yeah, so the U.S. ski team is the national governing organization of the skiing in America, and more or less it's a prestigious team to be about, and you do a bunch of competitions. So like each competition has an arbitrary rating on it. So there's platinum competitions, which are the highest: gold, silver, bronze. And then, so for example, if you get fifth at a platinum event, maybe you get 1,000 points. If you get fifth at a silver event, maybe you get 60 points. And more or less, like as a kid, you're starting at bronze, working your way up to silver, gold, and then you work your way up to platinum, and then you're competing against all the best people in the world. And then there's also a competition within America. So more or less, it's like you get named to the team based on your standing and ranking in America. And I was named to like the U.S. youth team, so I was like one of the top 3 U.S. skiers, like under 21 at that time, and I got named to the U.S. ski team. And that's in one way it's a big deal, in one way it's not a big deal. But in the way that it's a big deal, it's like you get access to the same training facilities as Michaela Schifrin, Bodie Miller, physical therapists, college grants. You get a lot of like access to a lot of amazing resources. When I say it's like not a big deal, I would say you can be named to this U.S. ski team, but that's not necessarily like the end all be all. Like once you're on the team, there's still like, I might have been the 3rd best skier under 21 in America, but that, can still be a drop in the pond. So it's one of those things where it's a great sign, but it's not necessarily like just being a part of the U.S. ski team isn't necessarily, making it per se.
Yeah. Were you excited when this happened? Were you intimidated?
Completely honest, between me and you, I was probably more intimidated. Also, I was very skeptical. I had a very good relationship with my coach, and joining the U.S. ski team, it didn't like have to mean it, but it kind of did mean that I was like shifting coaches and sort of like getting away from, the things that had built me up to that point. So, I had a lot of like good things going for me. And then also, I don't know, I guess I had like a little bit of like a stigma, I guess. And, I was very like anti-authority. I guess that's what happens to you when you're just like a kid and you haven't had many good positive authority figures. So I was kind of like, like the U.S. ski team, like, I don't really know if they really want me there. And, I had to really push to get on the team because, I had the qualifications and, I had to do some campaigning to get on there because I maybe wasn't per se your picture perfect candidate for the U.S. ski team. I kind of just happened to qualify. I wasn't really on the radar. So I kind of built up a lot of these stories in my head about not wanting me to be there, and people being not necessarily like out to get me, but, basically like, did people believe in me? And, I was very self-conscious. I was 17. I think everybody's self-conscious when you're 17. But that was what I would say too about this whole like dyslexic thing and the superpower. I think it's awesome and it feels so much, but also I feel like it creates a lot of trauma too. And the trauma can fuel you, but the trauma can also lead you in circles and lead you to bite your own tails. And I would say that in general, like, I had such a lack of trust in authority figures and such a lack of trust in people believing me, and kind of a splintered self-belief. On one hand, I had a lot of belief in my work ethic, but on the other hand, I had a lot of negative beliefs about how hard stuff was going to be and how much I had to fight for it and blah, blah, blah. And I think that those thought patterns, like around 17, 18 was kind of when they were both growing and they kind of just hit each other. Because on one hand, I had this crazy work ethic. On the other hand, I had these very limiting beliefs that came from growing up with dyslexia and not really fitting in. And sort of, I feel like a lot of from like 18 to like 22 was really those two things clashing, and then figuring out how to let go of the stuff that wasn't serving me and how to embrace the things that were serving me, which I think is very important in this conversation, because I think that it's easy to go around and fly the flag, and the flag is great and the flag is important. But at the same time, we pick up good things from dyslexia and we pick up bad things. And I think that, it's important to talk about both sides of that coin.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you do in order to embrace the two sides for yourself at that early age and beyond? I mean, what's some advice you may have for folks out there that have both? I mean, obviously we're all humans and we do have two sides for everything, but any thought that things worked for you at the time with such a contrast and such a, time in your life?
Definitely. I would say that I figured out by banging my head against the wall. So I wouldn't necessarily say that my path was super good. I think it's everyone has their own life experiences, and that everyone, I don't think it's that uncommon 17 to 21 for anybody, regardless of your background, to be these two things clashing. But, I would honestly just say, like, perspective just helped a lot. Like, once I got old enough and I got a different perspective on things. Also, I think that when you're that young, everything seems so big, when everything's really probably not as big as it is. And then also, I would just say, like, I don't know, I think I just had a lot of judgments about myself and a lot of judgments about the world. And, not to say that things aren't that serious, but I feel like it's one of those things where, I don't know, I would just say that like I said, I banged my head against the wall. I, made decisions, and those decisions maybe didn't lead me in the right direction. And then I changed course, and then I go, this is good, let's keep doing that. Then I bang my head against the wall. I go, let's not go back that way. And then, more or less A/B test your way through it. But, I feel like it's one of those things where if you can acknowledge it, like if you can see it, like I don't necessarily think that I could really see it at that point. And if you can acknowledge it and you can see it and you can talk about it and you can potentially see how those patterns show up in your life, that's the thing, is that I just don't think I recognized it like as a pattern, if that makes sense. And I think that if I could have recognized it as a pattern quicker, then I could have gotten out of the A/B testing quicker, and I could see like, okay, that's not serving me. But it took me a while to see, my own patterns.
Yeah, that's really that's very dyslexia thinking, if you really think about it, because when we look at the letters, there are negotiable symbols to us. Who said that this is an A? Who said that this is, so what our brain does is looks all the way around between, above, below, 3D and all that. No matter what we're doing, you can't read the word. And that is in something, because that's kind of your brain is A/B testing it. They're always looking for another thing, right? Like we're always looking around the corner, when you don't have a relationship with it, then it's definitely disorienting, right? Or disorder, or it's happening to you and different things out there are triggering you, and you sort of get tossed around by these things, environment, sound and stimulation, content, emotional range that's sort of driving you and moving you around and tossing you. As I got older and I start to sort of lean into it, I realized by actually embracing my disorientation, I'm no longer being disoriented. Like I'm actually disorienting by choice. I'm using the same thing on everything else I do right now in life, and I'm applying the same dyslexia thinking to it so I can do the amazing thing I do. And I'm sure you probably would say the same thing. Like, so it's a kind of interesting, the phases of finding out the sort of comfort, the disorientation, the relationship, and then the ability, if nothing else,
Definitely. And that's sort of how, I guess, everything, to work that back into the whole story arc here. So yeah, get named to the US ski team, conflicted about it, try, my absolute best to, I end up tearing my ACL, which I don't know, I'm a big believer in, like, if there's emotional problems, there will then surface physically. And I think that tearing my ACL was those two things, emotional issues, then manifesting themselves into the physical world. And then, recovering from that and, still wanting to, go that certain path. And then sort of around 2021, I was just like, you know what, this is crazy. Like, this is really crazy. Like, why am I here? Not necessarily why am I here, like not so deep, like why am I here on the world, but like, why am I trying to compete? This idea of a professional ski career, like what is it that, what's the point of doing it if you're not having fun, blah, blah. So I decided, like, you know what, I'm gonna get away from this competitive aspect. And I'm gonna go towards filmmaking, because I just knew that filmmaking was something that was gonna incorporate my vision for the world, because I definitely felt like a lot of people could do these tricks and they could do the tricks really well, but they couldn't necessarily put a lot of things together. Like, filmmaking is about the music, filmmaking is about the angle, filmmaking is about the that you do before it leads into this one to build a feeling and build an emotion. And I knew that I was such a nerd about filmmaking and ski filmmaking specifically. Then I'm like, you know what? Like, something just telling me that this is what I really want to do. But because I got named to the US ski team, I felt all this pressure, like, oh, wow, that's such a great sign. You need to do this. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? Blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what your work. This is the only way that you can be a professional skier, is through this avenue. And then when I sort of, like you're saying, embraced the differences and just, you know what, screw it, I'm diving in full into filmmaking. And then I started producing ski movies and skiing movies. And then I had my breakout, ski movie performance. And then I put a couple more good performances together. And the next thing you know, I'm getting invited to X Games, which is something I never qualified for when I was competing in slopestyle with the US ski team. And where, like, I guess the two things stopped fighting when I got them a little more in alignment. Got my two things: my hard work, my work ethic, and also my self, the let's say the bad self-belief per se that was built up in the expectations and wanting to please people. I think this is something all dyslexics have, just something all people have, people pleasing. And when I, they were always clashing, but then when I put them all in alignment, like you're saying, and just embraced, like, you know what, fuck it, I have no idea if this is going to lead to a ski career. I have no idea if this is the dumbest thing I've ever done, but this is what I feel passionate about. Then it all just, that's when things started picking up. And then that's why we're talking today. And that's why I have a ski career. And like you're saying, like, embracing that different path, seeing the different path, believing in the different path, taking the different path. And that more or less worked for me almost my entire life. But sometimes it's worked for you your entire life, but you have all these expectations of other things, and then you let that cloud the judgment.
Yeah. Well, it's a very common thing for dyslexic to kind of take two different things that don't seem to have a lot of things common, combining them into a new thing, and all of a sudden find their own, their own combination of things that sort of really drives their inner voice, inner talent. And, I wanted to go back. So I want to go back to the triple core 1080. And was it 2014 that you did that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 28 now. I did it when I was 17.
Wow, okay.
So that could be 2013 at this point, which is pretty crazy. So 11 years ago or something.
Wow. It's first of all, that's phenomenal. I mean, were you already tinkering with film at that time, or was this right before that?
So I was tinkering with it. So this was all sort of in the build up, you could say. So um, at this point in time, like, I mean, I've always loved ski films. That's just like one of the reasons I got into skiing, and always something that I wanted to do. And then doing the triple cork was like, I came to the ski academy. I found this awesome coach named Mike Hanley, channeled all of this frustration and sort of all this dyslexic energy into skiing. And then all of a sudden, I just started exceeding all expectations I had for myself, all expectations other people had for myself. And like, it was just this culmination of so many positive things happening. And I didn't really think that I could potentially do it, really, like probably a month before, probably 2 weeks before, probably a week before. And then I just came to the right place. It was the perfect jump, was perfect conditions. And I just knew it could happen. And I look at my coach, and I don't even think I discussed with him what I was attempting. I
Oh, really?
just was like, I think we're going to do it. And he's like, yeah, you got it. I don't, what I'm saying? I don't think it was like, I'm going to do this. What do you think? It was just like, he knew what I was warming up for. I knew what I was warming up for. I look at him, he looks at me. We both know it's possible. Drop in, we do it. And little did I know, he had a conversation with my dad, Mike Hanley. He's an absolute wonderful person, genius. He had a conversation with my dad like 2 months ago. He's like, yeah, Alex, he's, doing this. He's really good at this double. I think in a couple months he's going to do the triple. I would have, like, if I heard him say that, I would have been like, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. And at the time, I was like the second person in the world to do that specific trick. So it was like very, in front of the curve on that
Mm,
one. So it was one of those things where that's what makes an amazing coach. And that's also why I love Mike, because Mike had so much self-belief in me. And at that
mm,
point in time in my life, there was really nobody who had that much self-belief in me. And the fact that he could see it before me was like, that's a great
amazing.
coach. A
That's
great
amazing.
coach sees it and then pulls it
Yeah,
out of you. And so
yeah.
then that happens. And then tragically, I end up tearing my ACL like a couple days after that. And then I get named to the US ski team, and I already have a partially torn ACL, but I don't know it yet. But basically, that was like that year, my skiing just culminated into something super, super good. And then that performance is pretty much what got me on the US ski team.
Wow. Wow. I love what you're saying. I think it's so important for everybody out there around finding a good coach, and it doesn't have to be only in sports. It can be in life. And there's two sides to coaching, right? There's the coach, and then there's the person needs to be coachable, and having that sort of mentality of saying, you know what, I believe I can see, as you were saying just there, Alex, like he was able to see where you can go before you can see it, and because he can believe in you and see it, it gave you the confidence that, you know what, if he thinks I can do it, I can probably do it, and that's really all it takes. I mean, so much of our early experience have to do with our spirit being eroded, our confidence being questioned, our ability being, pointed out as like the labeling and the reading and the writing, and then you spend the rest of your life trying to fill that gap and, build that sort of confidence and spirit again. And to have somebody like that in your life that actually can sort of help you maintain it and see in that way, that's like a phenomenal gift. Very lucky for that. Most people, when they're thinking about, skiing, they're probably thinking the Olympic or the X Games. Why did you choose the more extreme side of skiing? Like, what was that for you, and why did you sort of decide to sort of push double time on that?
Definitely. I mean, I basically decided to like do street skiing, which is definitely a more extreme variant. And I think that I don't know. I think that a lot of it has to do with like growing up and where you're growing up. So I grew up in Maine, or no, I grew up in Massachusetts and Maine, skiing in Maine, growing up in Massachusetts and New England. And we didn't really have that big of mountains, but we did have tons of snow. We did have tons of rails, tons of walls. And, like the kids that I grew up with skiing all loved to, do street skiing. It was like thought of to be like and it is in some ways like the purest form. Like if you, for example, if you ski on a rail in the park, the whole reason you're skiing in a rail in the park is to simulate what it would be like to ski a rail in the city. It's like one of those things where it's like that's the direct idea. And if you go in a train park, they'll build rails that, you know, emulate the city. So the idea is, you know, to do the craft where the craft was meant to be done in that sense, and like to you know, it's the most difficult form of that of park skiing is street skiing, because nothing's made for you, and you have to come up with the idea yourself, you have to build the jump yourself, you have to basically, you have to make it happen. And so, you know, this was like where I grew up, this is what people wanted to do, this was the coolest thing you could do. And, you know, I'd been watching this type of skiing since I was like 12, and really, it sounds super nerdy, but it's a whole art form. It's a language. It's 100% a language. It's like when I watch somebody make one of these parts, for example, they're speaking a language with what they do, how they do, what do they decide to ski on is a huge statement. How they decide to ski it. Do they decide to do a technical trick? Do they decide to do a stylish trick? Do they decide to ski on things that are death defying, or do they decide to find something that, you know, you think is common, but then put that twist to, you know, surprise you. And then they, you know, this happens over 4 or 5 minutes, and it's like they're speaking a language, and it's give and take, and it's going big, and it's being surprising. And if you can put all of these things together in these 3 or 4 minutes, and if you can speak this language, you can deliver such a powerful statement. It's like a piece of art, like a good song, a movie. It's like you watch it, you're inspired by it. You can't believe how they thought about it. You want to go out, you want to, you know, imitate it, or you want to bring that interpretation into the way that you play music, if you listen to another good musician, or the way that you direct your film. So it's one of those things where it's like, for a small community, it means so much. And I loved it. As soon as I learned how to speak that language of ski filmmaking, I was like, this is awesome. This is pure. This is like excellence at this craft. And I just wanted to express myself, and I wanted to show that I had what it took, and that I could speak the language. And not only could I speak the language, but I wanted to bring it forward, because it meant so much to me as a kid. It's always like one of those things, like you probably think this way with design and art, but it's just like, you know, like you want to be able to prove to other people who care about it just as much as you do that you can speak the language. And then also you want to give something. You want to get so good to the point that you can not only speak it, but you can start adding on to it. And that's sort of what drew me to that side of skiing.
When did it click to you that dyslexia was positive rather than a negative?
I think it clicked. I don't know. I think I had like a pretty good perspective on it. I honestly put everything to like my dad. My dad, one of my biggest role models in life, he had dyslexia. And so I just always looked at him, and I was just like, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it. And, you know, I would say I honestly, I would say I had a good understanding of like, I had a positive outlook on it, but I would say when I was like 12 or 13, and I was skiing, and I just saw how hard I could work, or not how hard I could work, but what a different relationship I had with failure. Also failure. I feel like that's like one of the big things too. It wasn't necessarily like I could outwork people. I could tolerate failure on a level without it hurting me as much.
Yeah.
Mess up a rail 100 times, and that wouldn't discourage me from trying for the 101st time and landing it. Whereas I could see a lot of other kids, if they messed up that trick, you know, 2 or 3 times, they didn't want to try it anymore, or they got bored of it, or they got frustrated, they would throw a hissy fit, or, you know. And basically I realized somewhere around 12 or 13 that I just had this different relationship with both failure and this different relationship with how hard you have to work to get a certain result back. And then when I saw that in skiing, that's when I were like in my, like, you know, at the ski hill and interacting with people. And then also, and that was probably the moment where I say, okay, something, whatever's going on that got me so depressed for all these years before this thing. So it's got some.
I'm so glad you brought the whole failure thing, because that is such an important part of, really, if you think about it, success or innovation, or anything that anybody does on a certain level is because they were okay with 1,000 time failing to create that overnight success, or that one move or one solution that comes so easily, but because they worked their butts off and they were not afraid to try. And I know that trying and learning how to do it is what's being on the edge, on the cutting edge of any language, any medium, any performance, any endeavor that you really sort of put yourself to it. I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's so important to keep that in mind. Not trying, to me, is failure, and otherwise it's just like you learn how to go about it. I wanted to jump to, I know several years ago you began collaborating with a group called The Bunch. Uh, who is The Bunch? Tell me what you guys are doing. Share a little bit about your film and what's going on, coming out for you guys right now.
Definitely. So the Bunch is like a ski collective from Sweden, and it's mainly a group of professional skiers. And then this group of professional skiers, through skiing a lot, making ski films, have become super talented people in like photography and cinematography and editing. And now I would say the group does a whole lot of commercial filmmaking, and sort of is really, really talented filmmakers. And I would say that right now the group is coming from probably full ski focus to now more of a commercial film focus, and sort of like combining the passions. And right now, the film that was released last year, that's going to be released to the public, it's called Census, and it's like one of the first films, I think, filmed solely on a FPV drone camera. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
filmed only with drones, and it gives a perspective on skiing that's absolutely insane, and is edited by this guy named Jens Nilsson, who did an absolutely insane job. So I highly recommend. It's If you go to thebunch.tv, I'm pretty sure you can purchase it for like $5-10, or it's going to release sometime soon for free, I think. And then also there's another film called Längtan till Akka, which means longing for Akka, and it's about one of my best friends. I think it's his great grandfather, and he went on this expedition 100 years ago, and we recreated his expedition. And it's a
Beautiful
really
film.
touching family story. And
Mhm.
though that's also, I think, going to release this year for free.
Yeah.
So I would say coming from more pure ski movies, and then combining that more now with the craft of filmmaking.
Yeah, what I've seen is just absolutely beautiful. The cinematography, the mood, the storytelling. I love the parallel between, was it 1921 and 2021? Was it the sort of 100 years jump, and just the footage you guys had there, and then seeing you and some of the portraits, just like experiencing the mountain and the weather, is just, you really so visceral. You're literally feeling like you're there, and even telling you this, I'm getting a little chill. It was definitely seemed like it was not the warmest environment ever, but super well done and super beautiful. We'll definitely put some of the links in the show notes for everybody to go check it out and enjoy it. Tell me, I know that a lot of these films you kind of play dual role, both the co-producer and the skier. How does one balance both roles? How does that work?
I think it works pretty good. I mean, I think that if you're going to invest so much time into skiing into a movie, you want to have creative control over it, because there's no point in you risking your life or risking your well-being, uh, to just have it go in the hands of somebody who, doesn't have the same vision as you. It's an art, and it's important. For example, like, if I don't know, I don't really know a good comparison here, but it's one of those things where you want alignment. Like,
Yeah.
if you have alignment, then you're like, well, I believe in the vision, therefore I want to ski really, really hard for this vision. Therefore, I want to get this shot. And then if you ski really hard for your tricks, then you want it to go in a movie that's really good, that's going to be with other people who are really good, who's going to be have really good filmmaking. So it's one of those things where it's like, the yeah, it basically just creates it so that you have just so much investment into the project, and you really need that full investment in order to put the time and energy to have it stick out and to have the vision be completed. So I would say like one film I co-directed, co-produced, and skied in, and it's one of those things where it's just full buy-in, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. And I think that it helps get you excited because it just makes you want to work hard on both the filmmaking craft to make your skiing look good, and if you want to make your skiing look really good to make your filmmaking look really good.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm assuming that because you're both skiing and you know what you want to do, you're thinking both, where's the camera? What's the angles? How am I going to sort of enter and exit the shots? How do we make it most dramatic? And then you can kind of perform to it, having both being in it and not of it, and having that perspective, which again, I think it's very dyslexic. Sometimes I'm producing things and I can see the immense amount of detail, but I can also see it from like the outside in, and knowing what do I have to do in order to make that dance, like you said, making that dance sort of align and come together so seamlessly and beautifully. What is a traditional shooting day when you guys shooting? I mean, what does that entail for you guys?
So I think it all depends. If, for example, what type of skiing you're shooting, but if we just say like street skiing, it is super intense. I mean, you wake up, I would say the wake up time is what you would consider pretty mellow. And then you more or less, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, make breakfast, 10 o'clock, you go to the first ski spot, and then you more or less ski the spot until, or, you have to build the spot. In this hypothetical question, we'll get to that in the end. So let's just say you ski the spot and it could take you 3 days, 2 days to get the trick. So you could be at the same spot for 5 hours a day, hiking up and down this rail to get the shot. Let's just say it goes good. You get the shot within 3 hours. Then depending on what time of year it is, then hypothetically, maybe you're skiing with somebody on the same spot. Maybe you both get shots, but most likely maybe 1 or 2 people get shots in a group of 4. So then you try and move to the next spot, and then you hope that person doesn't take 2 days to do that spot. And then once the sun's down, then you go and you start building the spots. So more or less you need to sometimes shovel for anywhere from 1 to 5 hours in order to build the correct jump and the correct landing. So basically you do everything in the daylight you can. And then when the daylight ends, you eat some food, and then you go back and then you create the spot for the next day, and you wake up and you go to that spot or several spots. And then there's sort of like an order in which, for example, if I'm skiing with 4 other people, we maybe do my spot. And then once I get a trick, then the next person has priority of what kind of thing they want to ski on. And then, it just goes forward and forward, and, takes usually 3 to 4 months in order for everyone to ski enough in order to have something that they're proud of.
Wow. Tremendous amount of lift, a lot of efforts. Fascinating, and I invite you all to check out your channels, because some of the footage you got there is just absolutely breathtaking, and it's like, I don't even know how you do it, but just so inspiring. And it's good to know that how much effort goes, to sort of produce those beautiful moments. I wanted to jump, as we're coming to the top of the hour, to you co-founded 1,000 Skis, which are high quality skis. What made you decide to make your own skis? How did that start about?
It all started about, I had one friend and he was like, we're going to start a ski company. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you know about making skis? And he was like, stop asking so many questions. We'll figure it out. And it was sort of just right time, right place. And me and 5 other friends who are also, for the most part, all professional skiers, basically just felt like, there was something missing. There was a hole. There was something that we didn't really quite feel represented. And that, that we thought that we were, able to fill that hole, to create something that we felt like was missing. And, also to just represent, if you care so much about skiing and you care so much about ski films, then you also, really care about skis, and you really care about the ski industry, and, have some skin in the game, be able to, have a bigger say in things. Like, if you create the ski company, then you can make things happen. You can decide which people you want to sponsor. You can decide which events you want to be a part of. You can help support the things that you appreciate. So it's sort of like, if we are able to do it, then, we would able to, make a big impact on the community that we really care about. So it just felt like the next step. Once you have dedicated your whole life to skiing, then it felt like a natural next step.
What's different about the skis?
I would say the skis are really playful. They're really like fun to ski, and we also built them with the idea of like, you know, everyone should be able to ski them and have fun. I think a lot of people approach building skis for absolute high performance, and I think that we have high performing skis, but they're also meant for you to enjoy, and they should improve and enhance your skiing. And I think a lot of people choose skis based on like, oh, well, we love watching Bodie Miller, therefore I'm 60 years old and I'm going to ski on the same ski as Bodie Miller. But it's like you need so much muscle and energy to move those skis that it's not going to make your ski day better. And we make a ski that's designed for people, the everyday person to be able to get on and to improve their skiing, and to not just be a ski that, a world-class skier can ski and make look good, but a ski that, anybody can get on, enjoy, and improve their skiing.
Amazing. What's the origin of the name?
1,000 skis. So there was like a group. So there's like the bunch, and then there was like a group within the group so the bunch was a group of Swedish skiers, and then there was a group of Swedish skiers from Stockholm, so a group within a group, and they called themselves the 1,000 was their crew name. And then we were just brainstorming ideas, and because I don't know, we just thought it looked cool, and also we thought it was like a homage to them, and like because like a lot of us were a part of the bunch, and sort of like we just thought it sounded cool, really. We started brainstorming like, oh, 1,000, that could be interesting. And then also it's one of those things where you probably have been in creative sessions where it's just like you just have to choose a name, and you have to choose it and you have to stick with it. And we did that creative session. 1,000 came up because of our friend's old ski gang that we basically thought had a cool name, and we just 1,000 skis, and we've never second guessed it.
I love it. Yeah, it's a very catchy name for sure. I wanted to end by asking you this: if you were to give yourself some advice, or if you wanted to give advice to somebody that maybe hasn't embraced their full self and all of their dyslexia, if you were talking to your 17-year-old self, or around that age, what would you tell yourself? What would you give it somebody that's sort of struggling right now and trying to find their north? What kind of advice would you give them?
Definitely. I would say my advice I would give them is just patience and trust, and also just like I don't know, just believe in yourself. It sounds like really corny, but a lot of times the corny stuff is the true stuff. But good things are going to be there, and that so much good things are going to happen, and that silver linings are everywhere. And if you ever heard that old adage about the boy and the horse leaving and coming back, and good luck and bad luck, and sort of just see your dyslexia as something, don't judge it, and just it's just be patient, be ready, and know that luck can change on a dime, and your relationship with your dyslexia can change on a dime, and with time you're going to see the silver linings in it.
Beautiful. I love that story as well. It's not good or bad. It is what it is. How you interpret it that makes the difference, With that said, what's coming up for you next?
What's coming up for me next? Ski season is starting. I would say in terms of things that I'm creating, I'm always active on social media. But specifically, I have put a lot of time and energy into starting a YouTube channel. And I've been filming for my YouTube channel all last spring and this fall in Argentina. And we got a whole bunch of really cool videos coming out on the YouTube channel that I think are going to be really fun, and sort of what I've been putting a lot of my creative energy into building. So I would say go check out the Alex Hackel Network YouTube channel, and today on all the latest projects.
Yeah, amazing. We'll make sure to have all of your credential links, YouTube, and everything else in between posted to the show notes. So for you out there, definitely check it out and follow Alex, and check out the amazing things he's doing. Alex, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. This was truly inspiring. I was really looking forward to sitting with you again and just having a great conversation. And I think you definitely inspired our audiences out there. So thank you so much for everything you do for the community. And thank you for your being a huge dyslexic supporter. Really appreciate it, man.
It goes both ways. I think it's super cool what you're doing. And thank you for creating this platform. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Well, for all of you out there, thank you for listening to us live. We really appreciate it. We wanted to wish you a wonderful Dyslexia Awareness Month this October. Check out Dyslexic Design Thinking podcast. We have a few more coming up this month, celebrating the month. And please don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share. Help us raise our content to the top so we can get these great stories to a larger community and make sure that they know that dyslexia is a whole person, and help us in the narrative of reframing our gifts and our differences. So be well, and thank you very much, everybody.
If you enjoyed our conversation today, be sure to subscribe to this series wherever you get your podcasts. Visit DyslexicDesignThinking.com to learn more about our latest initiatives, including Dear Dyslexia, the Postcard Project, or to book Gil to speak at your next event or conference. Stay connected on Instagram at Dyslexic Design Thinking, or drop us a line at dyslexic@gershoni.com to receive our monthly newsletter and learn more about our upcoming programming. Dyslexic Design Thinking is produced by Gershoni Creative. Until next time, be well.